If you're a leader, you know your day is all about fixing problems. It's constant. But what if the real problem isn't your people? What if it's the very system you've asked them to work in? Today, we're going to dive into a pretty radical idea. Stop trying to fix your workers and start learning from them to fix the work itself. To get us started, here's a powerful quote from Todd Conklin. This really gets in a huge trap for leaders. The second we think we have the answer, our curiosity just shuts down. We stop asking the very questions that could lead to a real breakthrough. Believing you already have the solution is probably the biggest barrier to actually finding one. To really wrap our heads around how complex our work systems are, let's use a metaphor that I think we can all relate to: a giant game of Jenga. Seriously, think about it. Every person, every process, every tool, they're all interconnected blocks. The whole thing is just this delicate balance. This isn't just a game, it's a shockingly accurate picture of the complex reality we're all trying to manage every single day. So, what's the Jenga tower problem? Well, every single decision we make, a small process change, a new piece of software, a shift in priorities, it's like pulling a block from that tower. Sometimes everything holds steady, but other times, a move that seems totally minor can bring the whole thing crashing down. Let's break this down a bit more. That tower just screams fragility, right? Every little change you make is a gamble. It's a reminder that every system has a breaking point, and when failure happens, it can be sudden and, well, catastrophic. And no matter how many rules or controls you put in place, we're always dealing with uncertainty. This is the tightrope walk of leadership. So, when the tower wobbles, and it will, what's our first instinct? Usually, it's to find the person who pulled that last lock and, well, blame them. But there's a much better way, a way that actually turns that moment of failure into this powerful engine for learning. You've really got two paths you can take. The old way, the traditional investigation, it drills down to find a single root cause, and it almost always ends in blame. It gives you answers about the past. But the new way, the learning team, it expands out. It looks at the whole system and tries to understand how work really happens. The goal isn't blame, it's about shared understanding. It's about getting insights for a better future. It's a completely different game. So, what is the learning team, really? Brent Sutton just nails it with this definition. It's not a courtroom to find out who's guilty. It's about creating a space, a safe space, to understand the messy, complicated reality of how work gets done so you can actually build a better, safer, and more effective workplace for tomorrow. Okay, theory is great, but let's see how this actually works in the real world. I want to tell you a quick story about a packaging line, a really finicky machine, and how a learning team turned this chronic frustration into a series of brilliant, simple improvements. So, meet Martha. At a place called Harbor Foods, this case sealing machine was a total headache, especially on Tuesdays when production would ramp up after the weekend. You know the drill: jams, alarms going off, half taped boxes. It was the same old story of frayed tempers and, yep, inevitable overtime. Sounds familiar, right? But this time, instead of just blaming the operators or calling maintenance again, the supervisor decided to try something different. He used this incredibly simple but really powerful four-step process. First, learn. Just get the team together and listen. No fixing, no judging, only curiosity about how work is actually done. Then, soak. Give everyone a few days to just let the insights simmer. Next, solve. Get back together to brainstorm practical solutions that can actually stick. And finally, share. Spread that knowledge so everyone in the organization benefits. During that learn session, that's when the magic really started to happen. People felt safe enough to share the reality of their work. An operator named Maya, she admitted, almost embarrassed, that she used a folded business card to guide the boxes into the machine, a workaround that wasn't in any procedure but was absolutely essential to keeping the line moving. These are the golden nuggets of information that traditional investigations almost always miss. And then came the big insight. The maintenance tech, John, he pointed out that the tape wasn't the real problem. The failing tape was just a symptom. It was the snitch that was telling them a much deeper story about machine alignment, production pace, and even vibrations from a forklift path nearby. See, they weren't dealing with a single root cause. They were finally seeing the interconnectedness of their Jenga tower. And the solutions? They weren't some massive, expensive overhaul. They were small, smart changes that were owned by the team. A warming pace on Tuesdays, a simple visual mark for alignment, a painted no bump lane for the forklift. Just small changes that, when they stacked up, created a massive improvement in reliability and a huge reduction in stress for everyone. So, they fixed the machine. Great. But what's the real payoff for you as a leader? Why should you invest your time and energy in this? Well, the return on investment is huge, and it goes way, way beyond fixing a single machine. First off, you get improvements that actually stick. Why? Because the solutions are created with the people doing the work. They're practical, they're owned by the team, and they're sustainable. They're not just another top down mandate or a temporary band aid that everyone forgets about in a month. Next, and honestly, this might be the biggest game changer of all, you build trust. When you truly listen without judgment, you create psychological safety. And that trust, that's the bedrock of a high performing culture where people feel safe enough to flag problems before they turn into disasters. What you're really doing here is fundamentally rewiring your organization's operating system. The default question actually shifts from who failed to a much more powerful one: what can we learn? And that creates a culture of curiosity and continuous improvement, not one of fear and finger pointing. And finally, by uncovering your system's hidden weaknesses and its hidden strengths, like Maya's business card trick, you build an organization that can adapt and thrive in complexity. You're not just strengthening one part of the system, you're making the whole thing more resilient. Now, if this is resonating with you, you're probably wondering, okay, how do I start? Well, the good news is this isn't magic. It's a skill, a muscle you can build, and there are some fantastic resources out there to help you. To go deeper, I highly recommend the HOP, that stands for Human and Organizational Performance Beginner's Guide series. In fact, everything we talked about here is based on it. You can find all the books on Amazon. They offer really practical, step by step guidance on everything from understanding human error to asking better questions. It's the perfect toolkit to start your journey. So I'll leave you with this one final thought. The expertise you need to solve your most persistent, nagging problems, it's very likely already inside your organization. It's with the people on the front lines, the ones navigating the messy reality of work every single day. The crucial question for every single leader is this: what could your people teach you if you just created the space to listen?